Now, the nation's energy self-harm continues unabated, and the bloke in charge, Climate and Energy Minister Chris Bowen, well, he continues to embarrass himself on social media, pretending that black is white and that expensive, unreliable, renewable electricity is cheap and reliable, and that coal-fired power is the problem.
China and India, they know what we also know, that renewables are the cheapest form of energy, lower emissions and also more reliable. Because in Australia, we are facing coal-fired power stations breaking down every single day.
Yeah, this bloke actually pretends that coal-fired power stations are the reason that power prices keep going up. In other words, he lies. He spreads information that is the opposite to reality. And he's been exposed again today because it's been announced that the nation's largest electricity generation plant, the coal-fired Eraring Power Station on the New South Wales Central Coast, will have its life extended by another 2 years to at least 2029. Why is this happening? Because the power grid can't function without Eraring, because the so-called renewable energy transition is failing, because the intermittent power of renewables can't power the nation, and because Bowen's political spin about coal-fired power is exposed as false, just blatant lies. The truth is, the renewables transition is pushing power prices up and electricity reliability down. And the only person who thinks this is funny is the minister in charge.
OK, let's go.
As of today, Australians have installed 200,000 home batteries since 1 July last year.
All fun and games for Chris Bowen, but all the economic pain and suffering is there for the rest of us. Let's bring in Aidan Morrison, the Director of the Energy Program at the Centre for Independent Studies. Thanks for joining us again, Aidan. You won't have been surprised that they need to keep Eraring going till at least 2029.
No, the writing has been on the wall for at least 6 months, Chris. Basically, the system operator, AEMO, and also Transgrid have told us very clearly the system won't be stable and we are at risk of blackouts if we don't have Eraring extended. So we knew this was coming. The question is, when would the government finally be honest about it? And today it appears that Origin has actually decided that it's commercially profitable and viable for them to keep running the power plant through to 2029. So that's what they're going to do.
So taxpayers don't have to subsidise this?
It doesn't look like they do have to subsidise this at all. They had the option of calling on some underwriting for the 2 years from 25 to 27. Didn't call on it. Rather have their profits uncapped than have their losses covered, right? So that shows you how profitable and how commercially viable this power station is, as it continues to provide quite low-cost energy to the overall system, and they'll do some more to 2029.
You can't hide reality in this space, right? When you talk about electricity prices, we see the bills, people know what's going on. When it comes to actually reliability, people either have the power or they don't. Yet Chris Bowen, what he's saying to me seems to be the complete opposite to reality. If he's saying coal-fired power is the problem, then why are we suddenly desperate to hang on to more coal-fired power?
That's right. And the other question is why is it that no one off their own bat is putting their own money to invest in new renewable energy? Everything that's proceeding now for wind and solar is being underwritten by some state or federal government scheme or another. But yet, Origin in this case, off their own bat, with their own money, will happily extend Eraring another couple of years. So the market will support new coal and coal remaining in the system. That's still financially viable, but the market won't support investing in more grid-scale wind and solar. So that's not financially viable. So what is Chris Bowen trying to tell us when we can see these two signs clearly in the market?
Now, we've talked before about grid stability, and you've talked about these incredible machines, these synchronous condensers, that if we lost coal-fired power stations and we're going to try and run the whole grid mainly on renewables, you'd have to invest millions on putting these machines in to stabilise the grid. Does this mean they won't be needed now?
Well, it's quite a possibility that they won't be needed as soon as we otherwise thought. And you're absolutely right. The grid is kept stable by these huge masses of spinning metal, which we have for free in our system because these coal-fired power stations have these big spinning steam turbines. But if you shut those down, you need to pay someone else to produce another big spinning mass of metal that doesn't produce any power. And we are probably now going to be overpaying, paying for those things twice, because Eraring will be staying longer. So we could be paying twice for that system stability rather than just once, which is
stabilisers that we don't need.
That's exactly what we might have for another year or two because of this extension being announced.
Is there any good news for consumers here on prices? Will Eraring help keep prices down, or will it not, because we're still going to see massive investment in renewables and transmission while Eraring keeps going?
I think that hits the nail on the head. It will help, but it won't help enough necessarily to actually see prices fall very much, because we've got so much new transmission spend coming on. So $5.5 billion for Central West Orana. Who knows what the New England one will be. There's $4.5 billion for HumeLink. There's just so much in the pipeline for that spending alone that your bills are going to have a lot of upward pressure. But Eraring certainly will keep the wholesale prices, the price to actually dispatch the electricity, down. It has really only spiked up recently when there has been a real shortage in the grid. It's often when these plants have been out for long-term maintenance. It looks like that maintenance is now paid off and they can stay in the grid, so that might be able to keep prices a little bit of pressure downwards.